Thank you, Joanne. Welcome, Lynn Freedman. We are so glad you're here with us this evening. Your sister-in-law, Harriet Finkelstein, who is a dear friend of mine, is a member of the Kokavim group of Hadassah in Great Neck. Thanks to her, she introduced us, and now you're here to share your life-changing story with us all. Lynn, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, first, thanks to my sister-in-law, Harriet, for connecting us. You know, I grew up in a Hadassah household, and my sister actually lives in Jerusalem, quite close to the Mount Scopus campus of Hadassah. So I'm really happy to be here to be able to support the work that they do. So I'm a mom of two, a grandmother of two, almost three, and I work as I'm at the Columbia University School of Public Health, where I'm a professor working in the area of health and human rights. I'm also a lawyer, and my area of work actually is global. I work on maternal and newborn mortality, meaning the death of women in pregnancy and childbirth, and the survival of newborns as well. So that's the area that I've been working in for almost 30 years now, mostly internationally.
How wonderful, how wonderful. Can you tell us your stem cell story?
Sure. Well, it kind of goes together with COVID in a way, because I, like everyone else, was home starting in March 2020, working from home, and kind of getting more and more exhausted by, the events around us. But I went for my routine blood test, and turned out I was quite anemic. So they had me come back a week later, and I was even more anemic. Sent me to a hematologist, and a few days later, I was even more anemic. And so from there to a hematologist, oncologist, I was diagnosed with multiple myeloma, actually on my birthday in October of 2020, and immediately went into the first phase of a standard myeloma treatment, which is chemotherapy, immunotherapy, for about 4 months, and then which really did a good job of getting rid of most of what you can measure of the myeloma. But then a standard myeloma treatment after that induction therapy for people who have the ability to go through it, which luckily I did, I had so-called consolidation therapy, which is a stem cell transplant. And in my case, I was lucky to be able to do an autologous stem cell transplant, meaning they used my own stem cells. So I did that here in New York City at Cornell. It begins with a multi-week process where, luckily, because of the advances that have been made in research and practice in this field, you actually can do it on a sort of semi-outpatient basis. So I got to stay in an apartment, a hospital-owned apartment, as long as you have someone who could be with you. And luckily, my husband, Harriet's brother, was able to be with me just across the street from the hospital. And the first thing they do is first, they crank up the number of stem cells you have. Right. Then they harvest the stem cells. So through your blood, they basically do that until they have the number they need, which is many millions of stem cells. Then you basically go in and get very intense chemotherapy, a kind of bombardment of chemotherapy that is meant to wipe out the remaining cancer. But of course, what happens is it wipes out everything, including your stem cells, including your your whole immune system. So with the stem cell transplant, what then happens is after everything goes down to zero,
Right.
they've wiped out as much as they can, they then reinfuse your own stem cells. And that, they call it your new birthday. So a couple of days ago, I turned 2 and had my second anniversary since my own stem cells came back.
Happy birthday.
Yeah, thank you. I wish I felt like a 2-year-old and not a 68-year-old, but then you begin a 100-day period that is basically regrowing, I guess, your immune system and all the things your stem cells do. It's a period in which you are very immune compromised. So there are many restrictions on what you can be around, what you can eat, etc. And it's a period when you're quite exhausted. But after those 3 months, 100 days is really what they call it. Then you have to, for example, you have to redo all your vaccinations, all your childhood vaccinations, et cetera, because those were, your whole immune system was gone. Now you have stem cells which need to, you need to be re-immunized. You go through that whole period, and it takes some months to recover your strength, but I have to say I feel as good as I've felt for many years, which is great. And, it's one of those moments where you learn to eat better, you learn to exercise better, so your health is generally better. And that's where I am.
That's a beautiful story. Are there any insights or additional information you'd like to share with us about your experience?
Well, I am in the public health field, and it enables me to really have some feel for how something like a stem cell transplant or transplants in general, bone marrow transplants, have changed over time. And that's really due to the research that happens in the stem cell community, including Hadassah, around the world. I have some friends who I've met in this course of myeloma patients who did the stem cell transplant, maybe 5-10 years before me, and their experience was very different. They were hospitalized and kind of immobile for weeks at a time. And I, because of these advances in practice that really come from research, I was able to do this largely outpatient basis, a few weeks, and, basically be with my family, be at home, really made a huge difference. I have to also say that I was lucky to have an autologous transplant so that I didn't have any of the issues of donor host graft disease or donor, rejecting the stem cells. But for people who can't do that, and people with a whole range of diseases for whom stem cell transplant is life-saving, very often they need to have a donor, someone else's stem cells. And so I would just make a pitch also that it's very easy to register to be a stem cell donor. It just takes a cheek swab. It's no hassle. And you go on a registry, and people all over the world, especially in the Jewish community, I think it's really important and perhaps more likely that you'll get a match. And if you do, donating it's not like donating an organ. It's very simple to do the donation. In fact, there were people, they were harvesting their stem cells for someone else sitting next to me when they did my own. And so I would say that, here's this life-saving procedure that's getting better and better, more and more effective as research advances. And it's something we can all contribute to just by registering. And you may end up being a match who can save someone's life, maybe a child, maybe an adult. But, it's one of those small things that we can do as citizens of the world to really make a difference in people's lives. So I'd make a little pitch for people registering on these, potential donor registries.
Hear, hear. Lynn, thank you so much for really opening up and sharing your inspiring story, because your story could help somebody watching, could help a friend, could help a family member. You really are motivating us to keep raising money for stem cell research at Hadassah Medical Organization. You never know when, like I said, you could help somebody, because Hadassah does share its medical research globally. So again, Lynn, thank you for being here this evening. It really, really means a lot to us.
Thanks, and thanks for the work you're doing.
Thank you.